I mean, if anyone wants to set up a live archery competition on television, fully in.
Ooh.
I'm good. I work hard at it.
I think I should do a charity event there.
Let's do it. Anything for charity. No, and I do have some learning to do because he has a really high-tech bow, and I still use the bow that I use on the island. And it's tougher to shoot with because the draw weight is only 15 pounds. And so I need to get into shooting with compound bows, stuff like that. Yeah, those are awesome.
What kind of pressure are you under to live up to everything in the comics and everything for you now that your show's a hit? I mean, do you, but is it more the character? I mean, do you feel a certain amount of pressure?
I only felt pressure one time throughout this entire process. And that was during the camera test day, hair and makeup day when we were shooting the pilot, because I had been there for a couple of weeks, and then I arrived to set on this particular day, and it just seemed like there were 1,000 cars there. And I knew that everyone was there to work on this show, and that if I didn't do a good job, it wouldn't go to series, and nobody would have a job. And so I felt pressure for like a couple of minutes, and then I relaxed. And when the show debuted, I wouldn't say that I felt pressure, but I definitely sat in my trailer in silence from 5 o'clock West Coast time to 6 o'clock, just like looking at TweetDeck, looking at Twitter, wondering if people watched it, because it's like all of a sudden it was out there in the world, and I'm so proud of it that there was all of these anticipatory, adrenaline-laced feelings, but no pressure.
You said something, I saw quoted, you can please correct me if I'm misquoting you. I think you said something about you didn't necessarily have a TV, you didn't have a life, you had a TV series now.
Yeah, quite right.
How difficult is it to balance the acting with the physical aspects of it, the promotion of the series? It really is all consuming. Is that hard to deal with it?
No, because I'm living the dream right now. Everything is wonderful, and at a certain point, things will slow down, and I'll have 10 days where I will not get out of bed. But that day is not today. When I screen tested for this, I walked into Peter Roth's office, and he said he's the president of Warner Brothers Television. And he knew that I was Canadian, so he goes. He sort of made a Canadian joke. He goes, "Hey, so what's going on there?" And I said, "Mr. Roth, not Canadian today." And there will be a moment where I'm tired, but it is not now.
Obviously, you're stepping into the role of an iconic comic book character. Could you talk about a little bit about your prep and what kind of research you did? I'm also interested if you had any feelings about it, because Smallville had a well-established Green Arrow character, and Justin Hartley, if there was any kind of worries there or fallout in taking over that role from him.
So I'd never seen Smallville, so I didn't know, and I wasn't worried about comparisons because the show is so different. I didn't know anything about the Green Arrow character prior to auditioning for the role. I thought that the pilot was very sort of all-encompassing. I trusted Mark Guggenheim and Andrew Kreisberg and Greg Berlanti and David Nutter and Jeff Johns and all the people that were involved in the project. After we shot the pilot, I educated myself and read a bunch. I read Year One. I read all of Mike Grell's stuff. But getting back to what you said, I work every day, and I'm in every scene, and there is no opportunity to think on the macro scale. It's all just what is in front of me right now. And we're not taking a show, we're not leaning on the comics and then filling in the story and the characters. We're dealing with the characters and building out from that. And because that's what will make the show successful. If you don't care about what Oliver's going through, then the fight scenes and the action sequences aren't going to mean anything. Justin's a good guy too. We're friends. He's up in Vancouver shooting Emily Owens.
I'm really enjoying the implication of the show that Oliver's not entirely there. Like, he's definitely a vigilante, but he's kind of a little bit unhinged. I was wondering, how do you get in that mindset of a guy who is, kind of hell bent on justice, but may kind of be a little on the train set at this point?
I use how tired I am with the schedule. You know, it's actually really helpful. I mean, Oliver in the pilot is very, you know, I've seen reviews. He's sort of steely and he's sort of brooding and he's very centered because he's come back to Starling City with just one idea and just one mission, and he's trying to go from point A to point B. What he didn't consider when he was on the island was, well, how is that going to affect his relationship with his sister and his mother, and you know, how is he going to go about this and not have people suspect that he's up to something? So what we see in subsequent episodes is he becomes a little bit unhinged, becomes angry. There are moments where he's happy, and that's fun for me. And there's romance, of course, forthcoming.
I'm with super fans. I'm very excited about John Barrowman and just seeing him borrow and seeing how much have you interacted with him behind the scenes and how with him is
We definitely more than one.
yeah. Just more than one.
John is John. I consider John to be a mentor at this point. He's had really interesting advice because he's been a part of this world. He sent me well wishes for New York Comic Con on Twitter, which is very nice of him. He's a really interesting guy, and it's such a coup for us to have him on our show. I wish I could talk about what he played, but I can't.
Just us.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody.
That's in the video.